Section 9 of Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. Section 9. Tuesday and Wednesday. I have been hindered by this wicked woman's watching me so close from writing on Tuesday, and so I will put both these days together. I have been a little turn with her for an airing in the chariot, and walked several times in the garden, but have always her at my heels. Mr. Williams came to see us, and took a walk with us once, and while her back was just turned, encouraged by the hint he had before given me, I said, Sir, I see 2 tiles upon that parsley bed. Might not one cover them with mold, with a note between them on occasion? A good hint, said he. Let that sunflower by the back door of the garden be the place. I have a key to the door, for it is my nearest way to the town. So I was forced to begin. Oh, what inventions will necessity push us upon! I hugged myself at the thought, and she coming to us, he said, as if he was continuing a discourse we were in, No, not extraordinary pleasant. What's that? What's that? said Mrs. Jewkes. Only, said he, the town, I'm saying, is not very pleasant. No, indeed, said she, it is not. It is a poor town, to my thinking. Are there any gentry in it? said I, and so we chatted on about the town to deceive her. But my deceit intended no hurt to anybody. We then talked of the garden, how large and pleasant, and the like, and sat down on the tufted slope of the fine fish pond, to see the fishes play upon the surface of the water, and she said, I should angle if I would. I wish, said I, you'd be so kind to fetch me a rod and baits. Pretty mistress, said she, I know better than that, I'll assure you, at this time. I mean no harm, said I, indeed. Let me tell you, said she, I know none who have their thoughts more about them than you. A body ought to look to it where you are. But we'll angle a little to-morrow. Mr. Williams, who is much afraid of her, turned the discourse to a general subject. I sauntered in, and left them to talk by themselves, but he went away to town, and she was soon after me. I had got to my pen and ink, and I said, I want some paper, Mrs. Jewkes, putting what I was about in my bosom. You know I have written 2 letters, and sent them by John. Oh, how his name, poor guilty fellow, grieves me! Well, said she, you have some left. 1 sheet did for those 2 letters. Yes, said I, but I used half another for a cover, you know, and see how I have scribbled the other half. And so I showed her a parcel of broken scraps of verses, which I had tried to recollect, and had written purposely that she might see, and think me usually employed to such idle purposes. Ay, said she, so you have. Well, I'll give you 2 sheets more, but let me see how you dispose of them, either written or blank. Well, thought I hope still, Argus, to be too hard for thee. Now Argus, the poets say, had 100 eyes, and was set to watch with them all, as she does. She brought me the paper, and said, Now, madam, let me see you write something. I will, said I, and took the pen and wrote, I wish Mrs. Jewkes would be so good to me as I would be to her, if I had it in my power. That's pretty now, said she. Well, I hope I am. But what then? Why then, wrote I, she would do me the favour to let me know what I have done to be made her prisoner, and what she thinks is to become of me. Well, and what then? Said she. Why then, of consequence, scribbled I, she would let me see her instructions, that I may know how far to blame or to acquit her. Thus I fooled on, to shew her my fondness for scribbling, for I had no expectation of any good from her, that so she might suppose I employed myself, as I said, to no better purpose at other times; for she will have it, that I am upon some plot I am so silent, and love so much to be by myself. She would have made me write on a little further. No, said I, you have not answered me. Why, said she, what can you doubt, when my master himself assures you of his honour? Ay, said I, but lay your hand to your heart, Mrs. Jewkes, and tell me, if you yourself believe him. Yes, said she, to be sure I do. But, said I, what do you call honour? Why, said she, what does he call honour, think you? Ruin, shame, disgrace, said I fear. Pooh, pooh, said she. If you have any doubt about it, he can best explain his own meaning. I'll send him word to come and satisfy you, if you will. Horrid creature, said I, all in a fright, canst thou not stab me to the heart? I'd rather thou wouldst than say such another word. But I hope there is no such thought of his coming. She had the wickedness to say, No, no, he don't intend to come as I know of. But if I was he, I would not be long away. What means the woman? Said I. Mean, said she, turning it off. Why, I mean I would come, if I was he, and put an end to all your fears, by making you as happy as you wish. It is out of his power, said I, to make me happy, great and rich as he is, but by leaving me innocent, and giving me liberty to go to my dear father and mother. She went away soon after, and I ended my letter, in hopes to have an opportunity to lay it in the appointed place. So I went to her and said, I suppose, as it is not dark, I may take another turn in the garden. It is too late, said she, but if you will go, don't stay. And, Nan, see and attend madam, as she called me. So I went towards the pond, the maid following me, and dropped purposely my hussy. And when I came near the tiles, I said, Mrs. Ann, I have dropped my hussy. Be so kind as to look for it. I had it by the pond side. She went back to look, and I slipped the note between the tiles, and covered them as quick as I could with the light mould, quite unperceived. And the maid finding the hussy, I took it, and sauntered in again, and met Mrs. Jewkes coming to see after me. What I wrote was this. Reverend Sir, the want of an opportunity to speak my mind to you, I am sure will excuse this boldness in a poor creature that is betrayed hither, I have reason to think, for the worst of purposes. You know something, to be sure, of my story, my native poverty, which I am not ashamed of, my late lady's goodness, and my master's designs upon me. It is true he promises honour, and all that; but the honour of the wicked is disgrace and shame to the virtuous. And he may think he keeps his promises, according to the notions he may allow himself to hold, and yet, according to mine, and every good body's, basely ruin me. I am so wretched and ill-treated by this Mrs. Jewkes, and she is so ill-principled a woman, that, as I may soon want the opportunity which the happy hint of this day affords to my hopes, I throw myself at once upon your goodness, without the least reserve; for I cannot be worse than I am, should that fail me, which I dare say, to your power it will not; for I see it, sir, in your looks, I hope it from your cloth, and I doubt it not from your inclination, in a case circumstance as my unhappy one is. For, sir, in helping me out of my present distress, you perform all the acts of religion in one; and the highest mercy and charity, both to the body and soul of a poor wretch, that, believe me, sir, has at present, not so much as in thought, swerved from her innocence. Is there not some way to be found out for my escape, without danger to yourself? Is there no gentleman or lady of virtue in this neighbourhood, to whom I may fly, only till I can find a way to get to my poor father and mother? Cannot Lady Davers be made acquainted with my sad story, by your conveying a letter to her? My poor parents are so low in the world, they can do nothing but break their hearts for me; and that, I fear, will be the end of it. My master promises, if I will be easy, as he calls it, in my present lot, he will not come down without my consent. Alas! sir, this is nothing. For what's the promise of a person who thinks himself at liberty to act as he has done by me? If he comes, it must be to ruin me; and come to be sure he will, when he thinks he has silenced the clamors of my friends, and lulled me, as no doubt he hopes, into a fatal security. Now, therefore, sir, is all the time I have to work and struggle for the preservation of my honesty. If I stay till he comes, I am undone. You have a key to the back garden door. I have great hopes from that. Study, good sir, and contrive for me. I will faithfully keep your secret. Yet I should be loath to have you suffer for me. I say no more, but commit this to the happy tiles, in the bosom of that earth, where, I hope, my deliverance will take root, and bring forth such fruit as may turn to my inexpressible joy, and your eternal reward, both here and hereafter. As shall ever pray, your oppressed humble servant. Thursday. This completes a terrible week since my setting out, as I hoped to see you, my dear father and mother. Oh, how different were my hopes then, from what they are now! Yet who knows what these happy tiles may produce? But I must tell you, first, how I have been beaten by Mrs. Jewkes. It is very true, and thus it came about. My impatience was great to walk in the garden, to see if anything had offered, answerable to my hopes. But this wicked Mrs. Jewkes would not let me go without her, and said, she was not at leisure. We had a great many words about it, for I told her, it was very hard I could not be trusted to walk by myself in the garden for a little air, but must be dogged and watched worse than a thief. She still pleaded her instructions, and said she was not to trust me out of her sight; and you had better, said she, be easy and contented, I assure you, for I have worse orders than you have yet found. I remember, added she, your asking Mr. Williams if there were any gentry in the neighbourhood. This makes me suspect you want to get away to them, to tell your sad dismal story, as you call it. My heart was at my mouth, for I feared, by that hint, she had seen my letter under the tiles. Oh, how uneasy I was! At last she said, well, since you take on so, you may take a turn, and I will be with you in a minute. When I was out of sight of her window, I speeded towards the hopeful place, but was soon forced to slacken my pace by her odious voice. Hey day, why so nimble, and whither so fast? said she. What, are you upon a wager? I stopped for her till her pursy sides were waddled up to me, and she held by my arm, half out of breath. So I was forced to pass by the dear place without daring to look at it. The gardener was at work a little farther, and so we looked upon him, and I began to talk about his art. But she said softly, my instructions are, not to let you be so familiar with the servants. Why, said I, are you afraid I should confederate with them to commit a robbery upon my master? Maybe I am, said the odious wretch, for to rob him of yourself would be the worst that could happen to him in his opinion. And pray, said I, walking on, how came I to be his property? What right has he in me, but such as a thief may plead to stolen goods? Why, was ever the like heard? said she. This is downright rebellion, I protest. Well, well, lambkin, which the foolish often calls me, if I was in his place, he should not have his property in you long questionable. Why, what would you do, said I, if you were he? Not stand shall I, as he does, but put you and himself both out of your pain. Why, Jezebel, said I could not help it, would you ruin me by force? Upon this she gave me a deadly slap upon my shoulder. Take that, said she, whom do you call Jezebel? I was so surprised, for you never beat me, my dear father and mother, in your lives, that I was like one thunderstruck, and looked round, as if I wanted somebody to help me. But, alas, I had nobody, and said at last, rubbing my shoulder, is this also in your instructions? Alas for me! Am I to be beaten too? And so fell a-crying, and threw myself upon the grass-walk we were upon. Said she, in a great pet, I won't be called such names, I'll assure you. Marry, come up. I see you have a spirit. You must and shall be kept under. I'll manage such little provoking things as you, I'll warrant ye. Come, come, we'll go in a'doors, and I'll lock you up, and you shall have no shoes, nor any thing else, if this be the case. I did not know what to do. It was a cruel thing to me, and I blamed myself for my free speech; for now I have given her some pretence. And oh, thought I, here I have, by my malapertness, ruined the only project I had left. The gardener saw this scene; but she called to him, Well, Jacob, what do you stare at? Pray mind what you're upon. And away he walked, to another quarter, out of sight. Well, thought I must put on the dissembler a little, I see. She took my hand roughly. Come, get up, said she, and come in a'doors. I'll Jezebel you, I will so. Why, dear Mrs. Jewkes, said I. None of your dears and your coaxing, said she. Why not Jezebel again? She was in a fearful passion, I saw, and I was out of my wits. Thought I have often heard women blamed for their tongues. I wish mine had been shorter. But I can't go in, said I. Indeed I can't. Why, said she, can't you? I'll warrant I can take such a thin body as you under my arm, and carry you in, if you won't walk. You don't know my strength. Yes, but I do, said I, too well. And you will not use me worse when I come in? So I arose, and she muttered to herself all the way, she to be a Jezebel with me, that had used me so well, and such like. When I came near the house, I said, sitting down upon a settle bench, Well, I will not go in till you say you forgive me, Mrs. Jewkes. If you will forgive my calling you that name, I will forgive you for beating me. She sat down by me, and seemed in a great pucker, and said, Well, come, I will forgive you for this time, and so kissed me, as a mark of reconciliation. But pray, said I, tell me where I am to walk and go, and give me what liberty you can; and when I know the most you can favour me with, you shall see I will be as content as I can, and not ask you for more. Ay, said she, this is something like. I wish I could give you all the liberty you desire, for you must think it is no pleasure to me to tie you to my petticoat, as it were, and not let you stir without me. But people that will do their duties must have some trouble, and what I do is to serve as good a master, to be sure, as lives. Yes, said I, to everybody but me. He loves you too well, to be sure, returned she. And that's the reason. So you ought to bear it. I say, love, replied I. Come, said she, don't let the wench see you have been crying, nor tell her any tales, for you won't tell them fairly, I am sure. And I'll send her, and you shall take another walk in the garden, if you will. May be it will get you a stomach to your dinner, for you don't eat enough to keep life and soul together. You are beauty to the bone, added the strange wretch, or you would not look so well as you do, with so little stomach, so little rest, and so much pining and whining for nothing at all. Well, thought I, say what thou wilt, so I can be rid of thy bad tongue in company; and I hope to find some opportunity now to come at my sunflower. But I walked the other way, to take that in my return, to avoid suspicion. I forced my discourse to the maid, but it was all upon general things, for I find she is asked after every thing I say and do. When I came near the place, as I had been devising, I said, Pray step to the gardener, and ask him to gather a salad for me to dinner. She called out, Jacob! Said I, He can't hear you so far off; and pray tell him, I should like a cucumber too, if he has one. When she had stepped about a bow-shot from me, I popped down, and whipped my fingers under the upper tile, and pulled out a letter without direction, and thrust it in my bosom, trembling for joy. She was with me before I could well secure it; and I was in such a taking, that I feared I should discover myself. You seem frightened, madam, said she. Why, said I, with a lucky thought, alas, your poor daughter will make an intriguer by and by, but I hope an innocent one. I stooped to smell the sunflower, and a great nasty worm ran into the ground, that startled me, for I can't abide worms. Said she, Sunflowers don't smell. So I find, replied I. And then we walked in; and Mrs. Jewkes said, Well, you have made haste now, you shall go another time. I went up to my closet, locked myself in, and opening my letter, found in it these words: I am infinitely concerned for your distress. I most heartily wish it may be in my power to serve and save so much innocence, beauty, and merit. My whole dependence is upon Mr. B., and I have a near view of being provided for by his favour to me; but yet I would sooner forfeit all my hopes in him, trusting in God for the rest, than not assist you, if possible. I never looked upon Mr. B. in the light he now appears in to me, in your case. To be sure, he is no professed debauchee; but I am entirely of opinion you should, if possible, get out of his hands, and especially as you are in very bad ones in Mrs. Jewkes's. We have here the widow Lady Jones, mistress of a good fortune, and a woman of virtue, I believe. We have also old Sir Simon Darnford, and his lady, who is a good woman; and they have 2 daughters, virtuous young ladies. All the rest are but middling people, and traders at best. I will try, if you please, either Lady Jones or Lady Darnford, if they'll permit you to take refuge with them. I see no probability of keeping myself concealed in this matter, but will, as I said, risk all things to serve you; for I never saw a sweetness and innocence like yours; and your hard case has attached me entirely to you; for I know, as you so happily express, if I can serve you in this case, I shall thereby perform all the acts of religion in one. As to Lady Davers, I will convey a letter, if you please, to her; but it must not be from our post house, I give you caution; for the man owes all his bread to Mr. B., and his place too, and I believe, by something that dropped from him, over a can of ale, has his instructions. You don't know how you are surrounded; all which confirms me in your opinion, that no honour is meant you, let what will be professed. And I am glad you want no caution on that head. Give me leave to say, that I had heard much in your praise; but, I think, greatly short of what you deserve, both as to person and mind. My eyes convince me of the one, your letter of the other. For fear of losing the present lucky opportunity, I am longer than otherwise I should be; but I will not enlarge, any further than to assure you that I am, to the best of my power, your faithful friend and servant, Arthur Williams. I will come once every morning, and once every evening, after school time, to look for your letters. I'll come in, and return without going into the house, if I see the coast clear; otherwise, to avoid suspicion, I'll come in. I instantly, in answer to this pleasing letter, wrote as follows: Reverend Sir, Oh, how suited to your function, and your character, is your kind letter! God bless you for it! I now think I am beginning to be happy. I should be sorry to have you suffer on my account; but I hope it will be made up to you an 100-fold, by that God whom you so faithfully serve. I should be too happy, could I ever have it in my power to contribute in the least to it. But, alas, to serve me, must be for God's sake only; for I am poor and lowly in fortune, though in mind, I hope, too high to do a mean and unworthy deed to gain a kingdom. But I lose time. Any way you think best, I should be pleased with; for I know not the persons, nor in what manner it is best to apply to them. I am glad of the hint you so kindly give me of the man at the post house. I was thinking of opening a way for myself by letter, when I could have opportunity; but I see more and more that I am, indeed, strangely surrounded with dangers; and that there is no dependence to be made on my master's honour. I should think, sir, if either of these ladies would give leave, I might some way get out by favour of your key; and as it is impossible, watched as I am, to know when that can be, suppose, sir, you get one made by it, and put it, the next opportunity, under the sunflower? I am sure no time is to be lost, because it is rather my wonder, that she is not thoughtful about this key, than otherwise; for she forgets not the minutest thing. But, sir, if I had this key, I could, if these ladies would not shelter me, run away anywhere. And if I was once out of the house, they could have no pretence to force me again; for I have done no harm, and hope to make my story good to any compassionate body; and by this way you need not be known. Torture should not wring it from me, I assure you. One thing more, good sir. Have you no correspondence with my master's Bedfordshire family? By that means, may be, I could be informed of his intention of coming hither, and when I enclose you a letter of a deceitful wretch, for I can trust you with anything, poor John Arnold. Its contents will tell why I enclose it. Perhaps by his means something may be discovered; for he seems willing to atone for his treachery to me by the intimation of future service. I leave the hint to you to improve upon, and am, reverend sir, your forever obliged and thankful servant. I hope, sir, by your favor, I could send a little packet now and then, somehow, to my poor father and mother. I have a little stock of money, about 5 or 6 guineas. Shall I put half in your hands, to defray the charge of a man and horse, or any other incidents? I had but just time to transcribe this, before I was called to dinner; and I put that for Mr. Williams, with a wafer in it, in my bosom, to get an opportunity to lay it in the dear place. O good sirs, of all the flowers in the garden, the sunflower, sure, is the loveliest. It is a propitious one to me. How nobly my plot succeeds! But I begin to be afraid my writings may be discovered, for they grow large. I stitch them hitherto in my undercoat, next my linen. But if this brute should search me, I must try to please her, and then she won't. Well, I am but just come off from a walk in the garden, and have deposited my letter by a simple wile. I got some horse beans, and we took a turn in the garden, to angle, as Mrs. Jewkes had promised me. She baited the hook, and I held it, and soon hooked a lovely carp. Play it, said she. I did, and brought it to the bank. A sad thought just then came into my head, and I took it, and threw it in again. And oh, the pleasure it seemed to have to flounce in, when at liberty. Why this? says she. Oh, Mrs. Jewkes, said I was thinking this poor carp was the unhappy Pamela. I was likening you and myself to my naughty master. As we hooked and deceived the poor carp, so was I betrayed by false baits. And when you said, play it, it went to my heart, to think I should sport with the destruction of the poor fish I had betrayed; and I could not but fling it in again. And did you not see the joy with which the happy carp flounced from us? Oh, said I, may some good merciful body procure me my liberty in the same manner, for, to be sure, I think my danger equal. Lord bless thee, said she, what a thought is there! Well, I can angle no more, added I. I'll try my fortune, said she, and took the rod. Do, answered I, and I will plant life, if I can, while you are destroying it. I have some horse beans here, and will go and stick them in one of the borders, to see how long they will be coming up, and I will call them my garden. So you see, dear father and mother, I hope now you will soon see, for maybe, if I can't get away so soon myself, I may send my papers somehow, I say you will see, that this furnishes me with a good excuse to look after my garden another time; and if the mould should look a little freshish, it won't be so much suspected. She mistrusted nothing of this; and I went and stuck in here and there my beans, for about the length of 5 ells, of each side of the sunflower, and easily deposited my letter; and not a little proud am I of this contrivance. Sure something will do at last. Friday, Saturday. I have just now told you a trick of mine. Now I'll tell you a trick of this wicked woman's. She comes up to me, says she, I have a bill I cannot change till to-morrow, and a tradesman wants his money most sadly, and I don't love to turn poor tradesfolks away without their money. Have you any about you? I have a little, replied I. How much will you do? Oh, said she, I want 8 pounds. Alack, said I have but between 5 and 6. Lend me that, said she, till to-morrow. I did so; and she went down stairs; and when she came up, she laughed, and said, Well, I have paid the tradesman. Said I hope you'll give it me again to-morrow. At that, the assurance, laughing aloud, said, Why, what occasion have you for money? To tell you the truth, lambkin, I didn't want it. I only feared you might make a bad use of it. And now I can trust Nan with you a little oftener, especially as I have got the key of your portmanteau, so that you can neither corrupt her with money nor fine things. Never did anybody look more silly than I. Oh, how I fretted, to be so foolishly outwitted! And the more, as I had hinted to Mr. Williams, that I would put some in his hands to defray the charges of my sending to you. I cried for vexation. And now I have not 5 shillings left to support me, if I can get away. Was ever such a fool as I? I must be priding myself in my contrivances, indeed. Said I, Was this in your instructions, Wolfkin? For she called me lambkin. Jezebel, you mean, child, said she. Well, I now forgive you heartily. Let's buss and be friends. Out upon you, said I cannot bear you. But I durst not call her names again, for I dread her huge paw most sadly. The more I think of this thing, the more I do regret it, and blame myself. This night the man from the post-house brought a letter for Mrs. Jewkes, in which was one enclosed for me. She brought it me up. Said she, Well, my good master don't forget us. He has sent you a letter, and see what he writes to me. So she read, that he hoped her fair charge was well, happy, and contented. Ay, to be sure, said I can't choose. That he did not doubt her care and kindness to me, and I was very dear to him, and she could not use me too well, and the like. There's a master for you, said she. Sure you will love and pray for him. I desired her to read the rest. No, no, said she, but I won't. Said I, Are there any orders for taking my shoes away, and for beating me? No, said she, nor about Jezebel neither. Well, returned I cry truce, for I have no mind to be beat again. I thought, said she, we had forgiven one another. My letter was as follows. My dear Pamela, I begin to repent already, that I have bound myself by promise not to see you till you give me leave; for I think the time very tedious. Can you place so much confidence in me, as to invite me down? Assure yourself, that your generosity shall not be thrown away upon me. I the rather would press this, as I am uneasy for your uneasiness. For Mrs. Jewkes acquaints me, that you take your restraint very heavily, and neither eat, drink, nor rest well, and I have too great interest in your health, not to wish to shorten the time of this trial; which will be the consequence of my coming down to you. John, too, has intimated to me your concern, with a grief that hardly gave him leave for utterance; a grief that a little alarmed my tenderness for you. Not that I fear any thing, but that your disregard to me, which my proud heart will hardly permit me to own, may throw you upon some rashness, that might encourage a daring hope. But how poorly do I descend, to be anxious about such a menial as he! I will only say one thing, that if you will give me leave to attend you at the hall, consider who it is that requests this from you as a favour, I solemnly declare, that you will have cause to be pleased with this obliging mark of your confidence in me, and consideration for me; and if I find Mrs. Jewkes has not behaved to you with all the respect due to one I so dearly love, I will put it entirely into your power to discharge her the house, if you think proper; and Mrs. Jervis, or who else you please, shall attend you in her place. This I say on a hint John gave me, as if you resented something from that quarter. Dearest Pamela, answer favourably this earnest request of one that cannot live without you, and on whose honour to you, you may absolutely depend; and so much the more, as you place a confidence in it. I am, and assuredly ever will be, your faithful and affectionate, etc. You will be glad, I know, to hear your father and mother are well, and easy upon your last letter. That gave me a pleasure that I am resolved you shall not repent. Mrs. Jewkes will convey to me your answer. Section 10. of Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pamela or Virtue Rewarded by Samuel Richardson. Section 10. I but slightly read this letter for the present, to give way to one I had hopes of finding by this time from Mr. Williams. I took an evening turn, as I called it, in Mrs. Jewkes's company, and walking by the place, I said, Do you think, Mrs. Jewkes, any of my beans can have struck since yesterday? She laughed, and said, You are a poor gardener; but I love to see you divert yourself. She passing on, I found my good friend had provided for me, and slipping it in my bosom, for her back was towards me, Here, said I, having a bean in my hand, is one of them, but it has not stirred. No, to be sure, said she, and turned upon me a most wicked jest, unbecoming the mouth of a woman, about planting, etc. When I came in, I hied to my closet, and read as follows. I am sorry to tell you that I have had a repulse from Lady Jones. She is concerned at your case, she says, but don't care to make herself enemies. I applied to Lady Darnford, and told her in the most pathetic manner I could your sad story, and shewed her your more pathetic letter. I found her well disposed, but she would advise with Sir Simon, who by the by is not a man of an extraordinary character for virtue. But he said to his lady in my presence, Why, what is all this, my dear, but that our neighbour has a mind to his mother's waiting maid; and if he takes care she wants for nothing, I don't see any great injury will be done her. He hurts no family by this. So, my dear father and mother, it seems that poor people's honesty is to go for nothing. And I think, Mr. Williams, you of all men, should not engage in this affair, against your friend and patron. He spoke this in so determined a manner, that the lady had done; and I had only to beg no notice should be taken of the matter as from me. I have hinted your case to Mr. Peters, the minister of this parish; but I am concerned to say, that he imputed selfish views to me, as if I would make an interest in your affections by my zeal; and when I represented the duties of our function, and the like, and protested my disinterestedness, he coldly said, I was very good, but was a young man and knew little of the world; and though it was a thing to be lamented, yet when he and I should set about to reform mankind in this respect, we should have enough upon our hands; for, he said, it was too common and fashionable a case to be withstood by a private clergyman or two; and then he uttered some reflections upon the conduct of the present fathers of the church in regard to the first personages of the realm, as a justification of his coldness on this score. I represented the different circumstances of your affair; that other women lived evilly by their own consent, but to serve you, was to save an innocence that had but few examples, and then I shewed him your letter. He said it was very prettily written, and he was sorry for you, and that your good intentions ought to be encouraged. But what, said he, would you have me do, Mr. Williams? Why, suppose, sir, said I, you give her shelter in your house, with your spouse and niece, till she can get to her friends. What, and embroil myself with a man of Mr. B.'s power and fortune! No, not I, I'll assure you. And I would have you consider what you are about. Besides, she owns, continued he, that he promises to do honourably by her; and her shyness will procure her good terms enough; for he is no covetous nor wicked gentleman, except in this case; and 'tis what all young gentlemen will do. I am greatly concerned for him, I assure you; but I am not discouraged by this ill success, let what will come of it, if I can serve you. I don't hear, as yet, that Mr. B is coming. I am glad of your hint as to that unhappy fellow John Arnold. Something, perhaps, will strike out from that, which may be useful. As to your packets, if you seal them up and lay them in the usual place, if you find it not suspected, I will watch an opportunity to convey them. But if they are large, you had best be very cautious. This evil woman, I find, mistrusts me much. I just hear that the gentleman is dying, whose living Mr. B. has promised me. I have almost a scruple to take it, as I am acting so contrary to his desires; but I hope he will one day thank me for it. As to money, don't think of it at present. Be assured you may command all in my power to do for you without reserve. I believe, when we hear he is coming, it will be best to make use of the key which I shall soon procure you; and I can borrow a horse for you, I believe, to wait within half a mile of the back door, over the pasture, and will contrive, by myself, or somebody, to have you conducted some miles distant, to one of the villages thereabouts. So don't be discomforted, I beseech you. I am, excellent Mrs. Pamela, your faithful friend, etc. I made 1,000 sad reflections upon the former part of this honest gentleman's kind letter; and but for the hope he gave me at last, should have given up my case as quite desperate. I then wrote to thank him most gratefully for his kind endeavours, to lament the little concern the gentry had for my deplorable case, the wickedness of the world, first to give way to such iniquitous fashions, and then plead the frequency of them, against the attempt to amend them; and how unaffected people were with the distresses of others. I recalled my former hint as to writing to Lady Davers, which I feared, I said, would only serve to apprize her brother that she knew his wicked scheme, and more harden him in it, and make him come down the sooner, and to be the more determined on my ruin. Besides that it might make Mr. Williams guessed at, as a means of conveying my letter; and being very fearful, that if that good lady should interest herself in my behalf, which was a doubt, since she both loved and feared her brother, it would have no effect upon him; and that therefore I would wait the happy event I might hope for from his kind assistance in the key and the horse. I intimated my master's letter, begging to be permitted to come down; was fearful it might be sudden; and that I was of opinion no time was to be lost; for we might let slip all our opportunities, telling him the money trick of this vile woman, etc. I had not time to take a copy of this letter, I was so watched; and when I had it ready in my bosom, I was easy. And so I went to seek out Mrs. Jewkes, and told her, I would have her advice upon the letter I had received from my master; which point of confidence in her pleased her not a little. Ay, said she, now this is something like; and we'll take a turn in the garden, or wherever you please. I pretended it was indifferent to me, and so we walked into the garden. I began to talk to her of the letter, but was far from acquainting her with all the contents; only that he wanted my consent to come down, and hoped she used me kindly, and the like. And I said, Now, Mrs. Jewkes, let me have your advice as to this. Why then, said she, I will give it to you freely. E'en send to him to come down. It will highly oblige him, and I dare say you'll fare the better for it. How the better? said I. I dare say you think yourself that he intends my ruin. I hate, said she, that foolish word, your ruin. Why, ne'er a lady in the land may live happier than you if you will, or be more honourably used. Well, Mrs. Jewkes, said I shall not, at this time, dispute with you about the words ruin and honourable; for I find we have quite different notions of both. But now I will speak plainer than I ever did. Do you think he intends to make proposals to me as to be a kept mistress, or kept a slave rather, or do you not? Why, lambkin, said she, what dost thou think thyself? I fear, said I, he does. Well, said she, but if he does, for I know nothing of the matter, I assure you, you may have your own terms; I see that; for you may do any thing with him. I could not bear this to be spoken, though it was all I feared of a long time, and began to exclaim most sadly. Nay, said she, he may marry you, as far as I know. No, no, said I, that cannot be. I neither desire nor expect it. His condition don't permit me to have such a thought; and that, and the whole series of his conduct, convinces me of the contrary. And you would have me invite him to come down, would you? Is not this to invite my ruin? 'Tis what I would do, said she, in your place; and if it was to be as you think, I should rather be out of my pain, than live in continual frights and apprehensions, as you do. No, replied I, an hour of innocence is worth an age of guilt; and were my life to be made ever so miserable by it, I should never forgive myself, if I were not to lengthen out to the longest minute my happy time of honesty. Who knows what Providence may do for me? Why, maybe, said she, as he loves you so well, you may prevail upon him by your prayers and tears; and for that reason, I should think, you'd better let him come down. Well, said I will write him a letter, because he expects an answer, or may be he will make a pretence to come down. How can it go? I'll take care of that, said she. It is in my instructions. Ay, thought I, so I doubt, by the hint Mr. Williams gave me about the post house. The gardener coming by, I said, Mr. Jacob, I have planted a few beans, and I call the place my garden. It is just by the door out yonder. I'll show it you. Pray don't dig them up. So I went on with him, and when we had turned the alley, out of her sight, and were near the place, said I, Pray step to Mrs. Jewkes, and ask her if she has any more beans for me to plant. He smiled, I suppose at my foolishness; and I popped the letter under the mould, and stepped back, as if waiting for his return; which, being near, was immediate; and she followed him. What should I do with beans? said she; and sadly scared me, for she whispered me, I am afraid of some fetch. You don't use to send on such simple errands. What fetch? said I. It is hard I can neither stir nor speak, but I must be suspected. Why, said she, my master writes, that I must have all my eyes about me; for though you are as innocent as a dove, yet you are as cunning as a serpent. But I'll forgive you, if you cheat me. Then I thought of my money, and could have called her names, had I dared; and I said, Pray, Mrs. Jewkes, now you talk of forgiving me, if I cheat you, be so kind as to pay me my money; for though I have no occasion for it, yet I know you was but in jest, and intended to give it me again. You shall have it in a proper time, said she; but, indeed, I was in earnest to get it out of your hands, for fear you should make an ill use of it. And so we cavilled upon this subject as we walked in, and I went up to write my letter to my master; and, as I intended to shew it her, I resolved to write accordingly as to her part of it; for I made little account of his offer of Mrs. Jervis to me, instead of this wicked woman, though the most agreeable thing that could have befallen me except my escape from hence, nor indeed any thing he said; for to be honourable, in the just sense of the word, he need not have caused me to be run away with, and confined as I am. I wrote as follows: Honoured Sir, When I consider how easily you might make me happy, since all I desire is to be permitted to go to my poor father and mother, when I reflect upon your former proposal to me in relation to a certain person, not one word of which is now mentioned, and upon my being in that strange manner run away with, and still kept here a miserable prisoner, do you think, sir, pardon your poor servant's freedom, my fears make me bold, do you think, I say, that your general assurances of honour to me can have the effect upon me that, were it not for these things, all your words ought to have? O good sir! I too much apprehend that your notions of honour and mine are very different from one another; and I have no other hopes but in your continued absence. If you have any proposals to make me, that are consistent with your honourable professions, in my humble sense of the word, a few lines will communicate them to me, and I will return such an answer as befits me. But, oh, what proposals can one in your high station have to make to one in my low one? I know what belongs to your degree too well, to imagine, that anything can be expected but sad temptations and utter distress, if you come down. And you know not, sir, when I am made desperate, what the wretched Pamela dares to do. Whatever rashness you may impute to me, I cannot help it; but I wish I may not be forced upon any, that otherwise would never enter into my thoughts. Forgive me, sir, my plainness. I should be loath to behave to my master unbecomingly. But I must needs say, sir, my innocence is so dear to me, that all other considerations are, and, I hope, shall ever be, treated by me as niceties, that ought, for that, to be dispensed with. If you mean honourably, why, sir, should you not let me know it plainly? Why is it necessary to imprison me to convince me of it? And why must I be close watched, and attended, hindered from stirring out, from speaking to anybody, from going so much as to church to pray for you, who have been, till of late, so generous a benefactor to me? Why, sir, I humbly ask, why all this, if you mean honourably? It is not for me to expostulate so freely, but in a case so near to me, with you, sir, so greatly my superior. Pardon me, I hope you will; but as to seeing you, I cannot bear the dreadful apprehension. Whatever you have to propose, whatever you intend by me, let my assent be that of a free person, mean as I am, and not of a sordid slave, who is to be threatened and frightened into a compliance with measures, which your conduct to her seems to imply would be otherwise abhorred by her. My restraint is indeed hard upon me. I am very uneasy under it. Shorten it, I beseech you, but I will not dare to say more, than that I am, your greatly oppressed unhappy servant. After I had taken a copy of this, I folded it up; and Mrs. Jewkes, coming just as I had done, sat down by me, and said, when she saw me direct it, I wish you would tell me if you have taken my advice, and consented to my master's coming down. If it will oblige you, said I will read it to you. That's good, said she, then I'll love you dearly. Said I, then you must not offer to alter one word. I won't, replied she. So I read it to her, and she praised me much for my wording it; but said she thought I pushed the matter very close, and it would better bear talking of, than writing about. She wanted an explanation or two, as about the proposal to a certain person; but I said, she must take it as she heard it. Well, well, said she, I make no doubt you understand one another, and will do so more and more. I sealed up the letter, and she undertook to convey it. Sunday. For my part, I knew it in vain to expect to have leave to go to church now, and so I did not ask; and I was the more indifferent, because, if I might have had permission, the sight of the neighbouring gentry, who had despised my sufferings, would have given me great regret and sorrow; and it was impossible I should have edified under any doctrine preached by Mr. Peters; so I applied myself to my private devotions. Mr. Williams came yesterday, and this day, as usual, and took my letter; but, having no good opportunity, we avoided one another's conversation, and kept at a distance. But I was concerned I had not the key; for I would not have lost a moment in that case, had I been he, and he I. When I was at my devotion, Mrs. Jewkes came up, and wanted me sadly to sing her a psalm, as she had often on common days importuned me for a song upon the spinnet; but I declined it, because my spirits were so low I could hardly speak, nor cared to be spoken to. But when she was gone, I, remembering the 137th Psalm to be a little touching, turned to it, and took the liberty to alter it, somewhat nearer to my case. I hope I did not sin in it, but thus I turned it. 1. When sad I sat in the B—hall, all guarded round about, and thought of every absent friend, the tears for grief burst out. 2. My joys and hopes all overthrown, my heart-strings almost broke, unfit my mind for melody, much more to bear a joke. 3. When she to whom I prisoner was, said to me tauntingly, Now cheer your heart and sing a song, and tune your mind to joy. 4. Alas, said I, how can I frame my heavy heart to sing, or tune my mind, while thus enthralled by such a wicked thing. 5. But yet, if from my innocence, I, even in thought, should slide, then let my fingers quite forget the sweet spinet to guide. 6. And let my tongue within my mouth be locked for ever fast, if I rejoice before I see my full deliverance past. 7. And thou, Almighty, recompense the evils I endure, from those who seek my sad disgrace so causeless to procure. 8. Remember, Lord, this Mrs. Jewkes, when with a mighty sound, she cries, down with her chastity, down to the very ground. 9. Even so shalt thou, O wicked one, at length to shame be brought, and happy shall all those be called that my deliverance wrought. 10. Yea, blessed shall the man be called that shames thee of thy evil, and saves me from thy vile attempts, and thee, too, from the devil. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I write now with a little more liking, though less opportunity, because Mr. Williams has got a large parcel of my papers, safe in his hands, to send them to you, as he has opportunity; so I am not quite uselessly employed. And I am delivered besides, from the fear of their being found, if I should be searched, or discovered. I have been permitted to take an airing 5 or 6 miles, with Mrs. Jewkes; but, though I know not the reason, she watches me more closely than ever; so that we have discontinued, by consent, for these 3 days, the sunflower correspondence. The poor cook-maid has had a bad mischance, for she has been hurt much by a bull in the pasture by the side of the garden, not far from the back door. Now this pasture I am to cross, which is about half a mile, and then is a common, and near that a private horse road, where I hope to find an opportunity for escaping, as soon as Mr. Williams can get me a horse, and has all made ready for me; for he has got me the key, which he put under the mould, just by the door, as he found an opportunity to hint to me. He just now has signified, that the gentleman is dead, whose living he has had hope of; and he came pretendedly to tell Mrs. Jewkes of it; and so could speak this to her before me. She wished him joy. See what the world is! One man's death is another man's joy. Thus we thrust out one another. My hard case makes me serious. He found means to slide a letter into my hands, and is gone away. He looked at me with such respect and solemnness at parting, that Mrs. Jewkes said, Why, madam, I believe our young parson is half in love with you. Ah, Mrs. Jewkes, said I, he knows better. Said she, I believe to sound me, Why, I can't see you can either of you do better; and I have lately been so touched for you, seeing how heavily you apprehend dishonour from my master, that I think it is a pity you should not have Mr. Williams. I knew this must be a fetch of hers, because, instead of being troubled for me, as she pretended, she watched me closer, and him too. And so I said, There is not the man living that I desire to marry. If I can but keep myself honest, it is all my desire; and to be a comfort and assistance to my poor parents, if it should be my happy lot to be so, is the very top of my ambition. Well, but, said she, I have been thinking very seriously, that Mr. Williams would make you a good husband; and as he will owe all his fortune to my master, he will be very glad, to be sure, to be obliged to him for a wife of his choosing; especially, said she, such a pretty one, and one so ingenious and genteelly educated. This gave me a doubt, whether she knew of my master's intimation of that sort formerly; and I asked her, if she had reason to surmise that this was in view? No, she said, it is only her own thought; but it was very likely that my master had either that in view, or something better for me; but, if I approved of it, she would propose such a thing to her master directly, and gave a detestable hint that I might take resolutions upon it, of bringing such an affair to effect. I told her I abhorred her vile insinuation; and as to Mr. Williams, I thought him a civil good sort of man, but as on one side he was above me, so on the other I said of all things I did not love a parson. So finding she could make nothing of me, she quitted the subject. I will open his letter by and by, and give you the contents of it, for she is up and down so much, that I am afraid of her surprising me. Well, I see Providence has not abandoned me. I shall be under no necessity to make advances to Mr. Williams if I was, as I am sure I am not, disposed to it. This is his letter. I know not how to express myself, lest I should appear to you to have a selfish view in the service I would do you. But I really know but one effectual and honorable way to disengage yourself from the dangerous situation you are in. It is that of marriage with some person that you could make happy in your approbation. As for my own part, it would be, as things stand, my apparent ruin; and worse still, I should involve you in misery too. But yet, so great is my veneration for you, and so entire my reliance on Providence, upon so just an occasion, that I should think myself but too happy, if I might be accepted. I would, in this case, forego all my expectations, and be your conductor to some safe distance. But why do I say in this case? That I will do, whether you think fit to reward me so eminently or not; and I will, the moment I hear of Mr. B.'s setting out, and I think now I have settled a very good method of intelligence of all his motions, get a horse ready, and myself to conduct you. I refer myself wholly to your goodness and direction, and am, with the highest respect, your most faithful humble servant. Don't think this is a sudden resolution. I always admired your hearsay character, and the moment I saw you, wished to serve so much excellence. What shall I say, my dear father and mother, to this unexpected declaration? I want now, more than ever, your blessing and direction. But, after all, I have no mind to marry. I had rather live with you. But yet, I would marry a man who begs from door to door, and has no home nor being, rather than endanger my honesty. Yet I cannot, methinks, hear of being a wife. After 1,000 different thoughts, I wrote as follows: Reverend Sir, I am greatly confused at the contents of your last. You are much too generous, and I can't bear you should risk all your future prospects for so unworthy a creature. I cannot think of your offer without equal concern and gratitude; for nothing, but to avoid my utter ruin, can make me think of a change of condition. And so, sir, you ought not to accept of such an involuntary compliance as mine would be, were I, upon the last necessity, to yield to your very generous proposal. I will rely wholly upon your goodness to me in assisting my escape, but shall not, on your account principally, think of the honour you propose for me at present; and never but at the pleasure of my parents, who, poor as they are, in such a weighty point, are as much entitled to my obedience and duty, as if they were ever so rich. I beg you therefore, sir, not to think of any thing from me but everlasting gratitude, which shall always bind me to be your most obliged servant. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the 14th, 15th, and 16th of my bondage. Mrs. Jewkes has received a letter, and is much civiller to me, and to Mr. Williams too, than she used to be. I wonder I have not one in answer to mine to my master. I suppose I put the matter too home for him, and he is angry. I am not the more pleased with her civility, for she is horrid cunning, and is not a whit less watchful. I laid a trap to get at her instructions, which she carries in the bosom of her stays, but it has not succeeded. My last letter is come safe to Mr. Williams by the old conveyance, so that he is not suspected. He has intimated, that though I have not come so readily as he hoped into his scheme, yet his diligence shall not be slackened, and he will leave it to Providence and himself to dispose of him as he shall be found to deserve. He has signified to me, that he shall soon send a special messenger with the packet to you, and I have added to it what has occurred since. Sunday. I am just now quite astonished. I hope all is right. But I have a strange turn to acquaint you with. Mr. Williams and Mrs. Jewkes came to me both together, he in ecstasies, she with a strange fluttering sort of air. Well, said she, Mrs. Pamela, I give you joy, I give you joy. Let nobody speak but me. Then she sat down, as out of breath, puffing and blowing. Why, everything turns as I said it would, said she. Why, there is to be a match between you and Mr. Williams. Well, I always thought it. Never was so good a master. Go to, naughty mistrustful Mrs. Pamela. Nay, Mrs. Williams, said the forward creature, I may as good call you. You ought on your knees to beg his pardon 1,000 times for mistrusting him. She was going on, but I said, Don't torture me thus, I beseech you, Mrs. Jewkes. Let me know all. Ah, Mr. Williams, said I, take care, take care. Mistrustful again, said she. Why, Mr. Williams, show her your letter, and I will show her mine. They were brought by the same hand. I trembled at the thoughts of what this might mean, and said, You have so surprised me that I cannot stand, nor hear, nor read. Why did you come up in such a manner to attack such weak spirits? Said he to Mrs. Jewkes. Shall we leave our letters with Mrs. Pamela, and let her recover from her surprise? Ay, said she, with all my heart. Here is nothing but flaming honour and good will. And so saying, they left me their letters and withdrew. My heart was quite sick with the surprise, so that I could not presently read them, notwithstanding my impatience; but, after a while, recovering, I found the contents thus strange and unexpected. Mr. Williams, the death of Mr. Fownes has now given me the opportunity I have long wanted, to make you happy, and that in a double respect; for I shall soon put you in possession of his living, and, if you have the art of making yourself well received, of one of the loveliest wives in England. She has not been used, as she has reason to think, according to her merit; but when she finds herself under the protection of a man of virtue and probity, and a happy competency to support life in the manner to which she has been of late years accustomed, I am persuaded she will forgive those seeming hardships which have paved the way to so happy a lot, as I hope it will be to you both. I have only to account for and excuse the odd conduct I have been guilty of, which I shall do when I see you; but as I shall soon set out for London, I believe it will not be yet this month. Meantime, if you will prevail with Pamela, you need not suspend for that your mutual happiness; only let me have notice of it first, and that she approves of it; which ought to be, in so material a point, entirely at her option; as I assure you, on the other hand, I would have it at yours, that nothing may be wanting to complete your happiness. I am your humble servant. Was ever the like heard? Lie still, my throbbing heart, divided as thou art, between thy hopes and thy fears. But this is the letter Mrs. Jewkes left with me. Mrs. Jewkes, You have been very careful and diligent in the task, which, for reasons I shall hereafter explain, I had imposed upon you. Your trouble is now almost at an end; for I have written my intentions to Mr. Williams so particularly, that I need say the less here, because he will not scruple, I believe, to let you know the contents of my letter. I have only one thing to mention, that if you find what I have hinted to him in the least measure disagreeable to either, you assure them both they are at entire liberty to pursue their own inclinations. I hope you continue your civilities to the mistrustful uneasy Pamela, who now will begin to think better of hers and your friend, etc. I had hardly time to transcribe these letters, though, writing so much, I write pretty fast, before they both came up again in high spirits; and Mr. Williams said, I am glad at my heart, madam, that I was beforehand in my declarations to you. This generous letter has made me the happiest man on earth; and, Mrs. Jewkes, you may be sure, that if I can procure this fair one's consent, I shall think myself— I interrupted the good man, and said, Ah, Mr. Williams, take care, take care! Don't let— There I stopped, and Mrs. Jewkes said, Still mistrustful! I never saw the like in my life. But I see, said she, I was not wrong, while my old orders lasted, to be wary of you both. I should have had a hard task to prevent you, I find; for, as the saying is, naught can restrain consent of twain. I doubted not her taking hold of his joyful indiscretion. I took her letter, and said, Here, Mrs. Jewkes, is yours. I thank you for it, but I have been so long in a maze that I can say nothing of this for the present. Time will bring all to light. Sir, said I, here is yours. May everything turn to your happiness. I give you joy of my master's goodness in the living. It will be dying, said he, not a living, without you. Forbear, sir, said I. While I have a father and mother, I am not my own mistress, poor as they are; and I'll see myself quite at liberty, before I shall think myself fit to make a choice. Mrs. Jewkes held up her eyes and hands, and said, Such art, such caution, such cunning for thy years! Well! Why, said I, that he might be more on his guard, though I hope there cannot be deceit in this, 'twould be a strange villainy, and that is a hard word, if there should. I have been so used to be made a fool of by fortune, that I hardly can tell how to govern myself, and am almost an infidel as to mankind. But I hope I may be wrong. Henceforth, Mrs. Jewkes, you shall regulate my opinions as you please, and I will consult you in everything, that I think proper, I said to myself. For, to be sure, though I may forgive her, I can never love her. She left Mr. Williams and me a few minutes together, and I said, Consider, sir, consider what you have done. 'Tis impossible, said he, there can be deceit. I hope so, said I. But what necessity was there for you to talk of your former declaration? Let this be as it will, that could do no good, especially before this woman. Forgive me, sir, they talk of woman's promptness of speech, but, indeed, I see an honest heart is not always to be trusted with itself in bad company. He was going to reply, but though her task is said to be almost, I took notice of that word, at an end, she came up to us again, and said, Well, I had a good mind to shew you the way to church to-morrow. I was glad of this, because, though in my present doubtful situation I should not have chosen it, yet I would have encouraged her proposal, to be able to judge by her being in earnest or otherwise, whether one might depend upon the rest. But Mr. Williams again indiscreetly helped her to an excuse by saying, that it was now best to defer it one Sunday, and till matters were riper for my appearance; and she readily took hold of it, and confirmed his opinion. After all, I hope for the best; but if this should turn out to be a plot, I fear nothing but a miracle can save me. But, sure the heart of man is not capable of such black deceit. Besides, Mr. Williams has it under his own hand, and he dare not but be in earnest. And then again, though to be sure he has been very wrong to me, yet his education and parents' example have neither of them taught him such very black contrivances. So I will hope for the best. Section 11.
of Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Melanie Schlueter McElmont. Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded, by Samuel Richardson. Section 11. Mr. Williams, Mrs. Jewkes, and I have been all three walking together in the garden, and she pulled out her key, and we walked a little in the pasture to look at the bull, an ugly, grim, surly creature that hurt the poor cook-maid, who has got pretty well again. Mr. Williams pointed at the sunflower, but I was forced to be very reserved to him, for the poor gentleman has no guard, no caution at all. We have just supped together, all three, and I cannot yet think that all must be right. Only I am resolved not to marry, if I can help it, and I will give no encouragement, I am resolved, at least, till I am with you. Mr. Williams said, before Mrs. Jewkes, he would send a messenger with a letter to my father and mother. I think the man has no discretion in the world, but I desire you will send no answer, till I have the pleasure and happiness, which I now hope for soon, of seeing you. He will, in sending my packet, send a most tedious parcel of stuff, of my oppressions, my distresses, my fears, and so I will send this with it. For Mrs. Jewkes gives me leave to send a letter to my father, which looks well. And I am glad I can conclude, after all my sufferings, with my hopes to be soon with you, which I know will give you comfort. And so I rest, begging the continuance of your prayers and blessings. Your ever dutiful daughter. My dear Father and Mother, I have so much time upon my hands that I must write on, to employ myself. The Sunday evening, where I left off, Mrs. Jewkes asked me if I chose to be by myself, and I said yes, with all my heart, if she pleased. Well, said she, after tonight you shall. I asked her for more paper, and she gave me a bottle of ink, 8 sheets of paper, which she said was all her store, for now she would get me to write for her to our master, if she had occasion, and 6 pens, with a piece of sealing wax. This looks mighty well. She pressed me, when she came to bed, very much to give encouragement to Mr. Williams, and said many things in his behalf, and blamed my shyness to him. I told her I was resolved to give no encouragement, till I had talked to my father and mother. She said, he fancied I thought of somebody else, or I could never be so insensible. I assured her, as I could do very safely, that there was not a man on earth I wished to have, and as to Mr. Williams, he might do better by far. And I had proposed so much happiness in living with my poor father and mother, that I could not think of any scheme of life with pleasure, till I had tried that. I asked her for my money, and she said, it was above in her strong box, but that I should have it tomorrow. All these things look well, as I said. Mr. Williams would go home this night, though late, because he would dispatch a messenger to you with the letter he had proposed from himself, and my packet. But pray don't encourage him, as I said, for he is much too heady and precipitate as to this matter, in my way of thinking. Though, to be sure, he is a very good man, and I am much obliged to him. Monday morning. Alas a day! We have bad news from poor Mr. Williams. He has had a sad mischance, fallen among rogues in his way home last night, but by good chance has saved my papers. This is the account he gives of it to Mrs. Jewkes. Good Mrs. Jewkes, I have had a sore misfortune in going from you. When I had got as near the town as the dam, and was going to cross the wooden bridge, 2 fellows got hold of me, and swore bitterly they would kill me, if I did not give them what I had. They rummaged my pockets, and took from me my snuff-box, my seal-ring, and half a guinea, and some silver and halfpence, also my handkerchief, and 2 or 3 letters I had in my pockets. By good fortune, the letter Mrs. Pamela gave me was in my bosom, and so that escaped, but they bruised my head and face, and cursing me for having no more money, tipped me into the dam, crying, Be there, parson, till tomorrow. My shins and knees were bruised much in the fall against one of the stumps, and I had like to have been suffocated in water and mud. To be sure, I shan't be able to stir out this day or 2, for I am a frightful spectacle. My hat and wig I was forced to leave behind me, and go home 1.5 miles without. But they were found the next morning, and brought me, with my snuff-box, which the rogues must have dropped. My cassock is sadly torn, as is my band. To be sure I was much frightened, for a robbery in these parts has not been known many years. Diligent search is making after the rogues. My humble respects to good Mrs. Pamela. If she pities my misfortunes, I shall be the sooner well, and fit to wait on her and you. This did not hinder me in writing a letter, though with great pain, as I do this. To be sure this good man can keep no secret, and sending it away by a man and horse this morning. I am, good Mrs. Jewkes, your most obliged humble servant. God be praised, it is no worse, and I find I have got no cold, though miserably wet from top to toe. My fright, I believe, prevented me from catching cold, for I was not rightly myself for some hours, and know not how I got home. I will write a letter of thanks this night, if I am able, to my kind patron, for his inestimable goodness to me. I wish I was enabled to say all I hope with regard to the better part of his bounty to me, incomparable Mrs. Pamela. The wicked brute fell a-laughing when she had read this letter, till her fat sides shook. Said she, I can but think how the poor parson looked, after parting with his pretty mistress in such high spirits, when he found himself at the bottom of the dam. And what a figure he must cut in his tattered band and cassock, and without a hat and wig when he got home. I warrant, added she, he was in such a sweet pickle. I said, I thought it was very barbarous to laugh at such a misfortune. But she replied, as he was safe, she laughed, otherwise she would have been sorry, and she was glad to see me so concerned for him. It looked promising, she said. I heeded not her reflections, but as I have been used to causes for mistrusts, I cannot help saying that I don't like this thing, and their taking his letters most alarms me. How happy it was they missed my packet! I knew not what to think of it, but why should I let every accident break my peace? Yet it will do so while I stay here. Mrs. Jewkes is mightily at me to go with her in the chariot to visit Mr. Williams. She is so officious to bring on the affair between us that, being a cunning, artful woman, I know not what to make of it. I have refused her absolutely, urging that except I intended to encourage his suit, I ought not to do it, and she is gone without me. I have strange temptations to get away in her absence, for all these fine appearances. 'Tis sad to have nobody to advise with. I know not what to do, but, alas for me, I have no money, if I should, to buy anybody's civilities, or to pay for necessaries or lodgings. But I'll go into the garden, and resolve afterwards. I have been in the garden, and to the back door, and there I stood, my heart up at my mouth. I could not see I was watched, so this looks well. But if anything should go bad afterwards, I should never forgive myself for not taking this opportunity. Well, I will go down again, and see if all is clear, and how it looks out the back door in the pasture. To be sure, there is witchcraft in this house, and I believe Lucifer is bribed as well as all about me, and has got into the shape of that nasty, grim bull to watch me, for I have been again, and ventured to open the door, and went out without a bow-shot into the pasture, but there stood that horrid bull, staring me full in the face, with fiery saucer eyes, as I thought. So I got in again, for fear he should come at me. Nobody saw me, however. Do you think there are such things as witches and spirits? If there be, I believe, in my heart, Mrs. Jewkes has got this bull of her side. But yet what could I do without money or a friend? Oh, this wicked woman, to trick me so! Everything, man, woman, and beast, is in a plot against your poor Pamela, I think. Then I know not one step of the way, nor how far to any house or cottage, and whether I could gain protection, if I got to a house. And now the robbers are abroad too. I may run into as great danger as I want to escape, nay, greater much, if these promising appearances hold. And sure my master cannot be so black as that they should not. What can I do? I have a good mind to try for it once more, but then I may be pursued and taken, and it will be worse for me, and this wicked woman will beat me, and take my shoes away, and lock me up. But after all, if my master should mean well, he can't be angry at my fears, if I should escape. And nobody can blame me. And I can more easily be induced, with you, when all my apprehensions are over, to consider his proposal of Mr. Williams than I could here. And he pretends, as you have read in his letter, he will leave me to my choice. Why, then, should I be afraid? I will go down again, I think, but yet my heart misgives me because of the difficulties before me in escaping, and being so poor and so friendless. Oh, good God, the preserver of the innocent, direct me what to do. Well, I have just now a sort of strange persuasion upon me that I ought to try to get way, and leave the issue to Providence. So, once more, I'll see at least if the bull still be there. Alack-a-day, what a fate is this! I have not the courage to go, neither can I think to stay. But I must resolve. The gardener was in sight last time, so made me come up again. But I'll contrive to send him out of the way if I can. For if I never should have another opportunity, I could not forgive myself. Once more I'll venture. God, direct my footsteps, and make smooth my path and my way to safety. Well, here I am, come back again, frightened like a fool, out of all my purposes. Oh, how terrible everything appears to me! I had got twice as far again as I was before out the back door, and I'd looked and saw the bull, as I thought, between me and the door, and another bull coming towards me the other way. Well, thought I, here is double witchcraft, to be sure. Here is the spirit of my master in one bull, and Mrs. Jewkes in the other. And now I am gone, to be sure. Oh, help! cried I, like a fool, and ran back to the door, swift as if I flew. When I had got to the door in my hand, I ventured to look back, to see if these supposed bulls were coming, and I saw they were only 2 poor cows, a-grazing in distant places, that my fears had made all this rout about. But as everything is so frightful to me, I find I am not fit to think of my escape, for I shall be as much frightened at the first strange man I meet with, and I am persuaded that fear brings one into more dangers than the caution that goes along with it delivers one from. I then locked the door, and put the key in my pocket. It was in a sad quandary, but I was soon determined, for the maid Nan came in sight, and asked if anything was the matter, that I was so often up and down stairs. God forgive me, but I had a sad lie at my tongue's end. Said I, though Mrs. Jewkes is sometimes a little hard upon me, yet I know not where I am without her. I go up, and I come down, to walk about in the garden, and, not having her, know scarcely what to do with myself. Ay, said the idiot, she is main good company, madam, no wonder you miss her. So, here I am again, and here likely to be, for I have no courage to help myself anywhere else. Oh, why are poor foolish maidens tried with such dangers, when they have such weak minds to grapple with them? I will, since it is so, hope the best. But yet I cannot but observe how grievously everything makes against me. For here are the robbers, though I fell not into their hands myself, yet they gave me as much terror, and had as great an effect upon my fears as if I had. And here is the bull. It has as effectually frightened me as if I had been hurt by it, instead of the cook-maid. And so these join together, as I may say, to make a very dastard of me. But my folly was the worst of all, because that deprived me of my money, for had I had that, I believe I should have ventured both the bull and the robbers. Monday afternoon. So Mrs. Jewkes is returned from her visit. Well, said she, I would have you set your heart at rest, for Mr. Williams will do very well again. He is not half so bad as he fancied. Oh, these scholars, said she, they have not the hearts of mice. He has only a few scratches on his face, which, said she, I suppose he got by grappling among the gravel at the bottom of the dam, to try to find a hole in the ground to hide himself from the robbers. His shin and his knee are hardly to be seen to all anything. He says in his letter he was a frightful spectacle, He might be so, indeed, when he first came in doors, but he looks well enough now, and only for a few groans now and then, when he thinks of his danger, I see nothing is the matter with him. So, Mrs. Pamela, said she, I would have you be very easy about it. I am glad of it, said I, for all your jokes, to Mrs. Jewkes. Well, said she, he talks of nothing but you, and when I told him I would fain have persuaded you to come with me, the man was out of his wits with his gratitude to me, and so has laid open all his heart to me, and told me all that has passed, and was contriving between you two. This alarmed me prodigiously, and the rather as I saw, by 2 or 3 instances, that his honest heart could keep nothing, believing every one as undesigning as himself. I said, but with a heavy heart, Ah, Mrs. Jewkes, this might have done with me, had he had anything that he could have told you of, but you know well enough, that had we been disposed, we had no opportunity for it, from your watchful care and circumspection. No, said she, that's very true, Mrs. Pamela. Not so much as for that declaration that he owned before me, he had found opportunity, for all my watchfulness, to make you. Come, come, said she, no more of these shams with me. You have an excellent headpiece for your years, but may be I am as cunning as you. However, said she, all is well now, because my watchments are now over, by my master's direction. How have you employed yourself in my absence? I was so troubled at what might have passed between Mr. Williams and her, that I could not hide it, and she said, Well, Mrs. Pamela, since all matters are likely to be so soon and so happily ended, let me advise you to be a little less concerned at his discoveries, and make me your confidant, as he has done, and I shall think you have some favour for me, and reliance upon me, and perhaps you might not repent it. She was so earnest that I mistrusted she did this to pump me, and I knew how, now, to account for her kindness to Mr. Williams in her visit to him, which was only to get out of him what she could. Why, Mrs. Jewkes, said I, is all this fishing about for something, where there is nothing, if there be an end of your watchments, as you call them? Nothing, said she, but womanish curiosity, I'll assure you, for one is naturally led to find out matters where there is such privacy intended. Well, said I, pray let me know what he has said, and then I'll give you an answer to your curiosity. I don't care, said she, whether you do or not, for I have as much as I wanted from him, and I despair of getting out of you anything you hadn't a mind should I know, my little cunning dear. Well, said I, let him have said what he would, I care not, for I am sure he can say no harm of me, and so let us change the talk. I was the easier indeed, because, for all her pumps, she gave no hint of the key in the door, etc., which he had communicated to her. She would not have forborne giving me a touch of. And so we gave up one another, as despairing to gain our ends of each other. But I am sure he must have said more than he should, and I am the more apprehensive all is not right, because she has now been actually, these 2 hours, shut up a-writing, though she pretended she had given me up all her stores of papers, etc., and that I should write for her. I begin to wish I had ventured everything and gone off, when I might. Oh, when will this state of doubt and uneasiness end? She has just been with me, and says she shall send a messenger to Bedfordshire, and he shall carry a letter of thanks for me, if I will write it for my master's favour to me. Indeed, said I have no thanks to give, till I am with my father and mother. And besides, I sent a letter, as you know, but have had no answer to it. She said she thought that his letter to Mr. Williams was sufficient, and the least I could do was to thank him, if but in 2 lines. No need of it, said I, for I don't intend to have Mr. Williams. What then is that letter to me? Well, said she, I see thou art quite unfathomable. I don't like all this. Oh, my foolish fears of bulls and robbers! For now all my uneasiness begins to double upon me. Oh, what has this incautious man said? That, no doubt, is the subject of her long letter. I will close this day's writing with just saying that she is mighty silent and reserved to what she was, and says nothing but no or yes to what I ask. Something must be hatching, I doubt. I the rather think so, because I find she does not keep her word with me about lying by myself and my money, to both which points she returned suspicious answers, saying as to the one, Why, you are mighty earnest for your money, I shan't run away with it. And to the other, Good lack, you need not be so willing, as I know of, to part with me for a bedfellow, till you are sure of one you like better. This cut me to the heart, and at the same time stopped my mouth. Tuesday, Wednesday. Mr. Williams has been here, but we have had no opportunity to talk together. He seemed confounded at Mrs. Jewkes's change of temper and reservedness after her kind visit, and their freedom with one another, and much more at what I am going to tell you. He asked if I would take a turn in the garden with Mrs. Jewkes and him. No, said she, I can't go. Said he, May not Mrs. Pamela take a walk? No, said she, I desire she won't. Why, Mrs. Jewkes, said he, I'm afraid I have somehow disobliged you. Not at all, replied she, but I suppose you will soon be at liberty to walk together as much as you please, and I have sent a messenger for my last instructions about this and more weighty matters, and when they come I shall leave you to do as you both will, but, till then, it is no matter how little you are together. This alarmed us both, and he seemed quite struck of a heap, and put on, as I thought, a self-accusing countenance. So I went behind her back, and held my two hands together, flat, with the bit of paper I had between them, and looked at him, and he seemed to take me as I intended, intimating the renewing of the correspondence by the tiles. I'd left them both together, and retired to my closet to write a letter for the tiles, but having no time for a copy, I will give you the substance only. I expostulated with him on his too great openness and easiness to fall into Mrs. Jewkes's snares, told him my apprehensions of foul play, and gave briefly the reasons which moved me, begged to know what he had said, and intimated that I thought there was the highest reason to resume our prospect of the escape by the back door. I put this in the usual place in the evening, and now wait with impatience for an answer. Thursday. I have the following answer. Dearest Madam, I am utterly confounded, and must plead guilty to all your just reproaches. I wish I were master of all but half your caution and discretion. I hope, after all, this is only a touch of this ill woman's temper, to show her power and importance, for I think Mr. B. neither can nor dare deceive me in so black a manner. I would expose him all the world over if he did. But it is not, cannot be in him. I have received a letter from John Arnold, in which he tells me that his master is preparing for his London journey, and believes afterwards he will come into these parts, but he says Lady Davers is at their house, and is to accompany her brother to London, or meet him there, he knows not which. He professes great zeal and affection to your service, and I find he refers to a letter he sent me before, but which is not come to my hand. I think there can be no treachery, for it is a particular friend at Gainsborough that I have ordered him to direct to, and this is come safe to my hands by this means, for well I know I durst trust nothing to Brett at the post-house here. This gives me a little pain, But I hope all will end well, and we shall soon hear if it be necessary to pursue our former intentions. If it be, I will lose no time to provide a horse for you, and another for myself, for I can never do either God or myself better service, though I were to forego all my expectations for it here. I am your most faithful, humble servant. I was too free indeed with Mrs. Jewkes, led to it by her dissimulation, and by her pretended concern to make me happy with you. I hinted that I would not have scrupled to have procured your deliverance by any means, and that I had proposed to you, as the only honourable one, marriage with me. But I assured her, though she would hardly believe me, that you discouraged my application, which is too true. But not a word of the back-door key, etc. Mrs. Jewkes continues still sullen and ill-natured, and I am almost afraid to speak to her. She watches me as close as ever, and pretends to wonder why I shun her company as I do. I have just put under the tiles these lines inspired by my fears, which are indeed very strong, and I doubt, not without reason. Sir, everything gives me additional disturbance. The missed letter of John Arnold's makes me suspect a plot. Yet I am loath to think myself of so much importance as to suppose everyone in a plot against me. Are you sure, however, the London journey is not to be a Lincolnshire one? May not John, who has been once a traitor, be so again? Why need I be thus in doubt? If I could have this horse, I would turn the reins on his neck, and trust to Providence to guide him for my safeguard. For I would not endanger you, now just upon the edge of your preferment. Yet, sir, I fear your fatal openness will make you suspected as accessory. Let us be ever so cautious. Were my life in question, instead of my honesty, I would not wish to involve you, or anybody, in the least difficulty, for so worthless a poor creature. But, oh, sir, my soul is of equal importance with the soul of a princess, though my quality is inferior to that of the meanest slave. Save then my innocence, good heaven, and preserve my mind spotless. And happy shall I be to lay down my worthless life, and see an end to all my troubles and anxieties. Forgive my impatience, but my presaging mind bodes horrid mischiefs. Everything looks dark around me, in this woman's impenetrable sullenness and silence, without any apparent reason, from a conduct so very contrary, bid me fear the worst. Blame me, sir, if you think me wrong, and let me have your advice what to do, which will oblige your most afflicted servant. Friday. I have this half-angry answer, but what is more to me than all the letters in the world could be yours, my dear father, enclosed. Madam, I think you are too apprehensive by much. I am sorry for your uneasiness. You may depend upon me and all I can do. But I make no doubt of the London journey, nor of John's contrition and fidelity. I have just received from my Gainsborough friend this letter, as I suppose, from your good father, in a cover directed for me, as I had desired. I hope it contains nothing to add to your uneasiness. Pray, dearest madam, lay aside your fears, and wait a few days for the issue of Mrs. Jewkes' letter, and mine of thanks to Mr. B. Things, I hope, must be better than you expect. Providence will not desert such piety and innocence, and be this your comfort and reliance, which is the best advice that can be at present given by your most faithful, humble servant. Nota bene. The father's letter was as follows. My dearest daughter, our prayers are at length heard, and we are overwhelmed with joy. O what sufferings, what trials hast thou gone through! Blessed be the divine goodness which has enabled thee to withstand so many temptations. We have not yet had leisure to read through your long accounts of all your hardships. I say long, because I wonder how you could find time and opportunity for them. But otherwise they are the delight of our spare hours, and we shall read them over and over as long as we live, with thankfulness to God, who has given us so virtuous and so discreet a daughter. How happy is our lot in the midst of our poverty! Oh, let none ever think children a burden to them, when the poorest circumstances can produce so much riches in a Pamela. Persist, my dear daughter, in the same excellent course, and we shall not envy the highest estate, but defy them to produce such a daughter as ours. I said we had not read through all yours in course. We were too impatient, and so turned to the end, where we could find your virtue within view of its reward, and your master's heart turned to see the folly of his ways, and the injury he had intended to our dear child. For, to be sure, my dear, he would have ruined you, if he could. But seeing your virtue, his heart is touched, and he has, no doubt, been awakened by your good example. We don't see that you can do any way so well as to come to the present proposal, and make Mr. Williams, the worthy Mr. Williams, God bless him, happy. And though we are poor, and can add no merit, no reputation, no fortune to our dear child, but rather must be a disgrace to her, as the world will think, yet I hope I do not sin in my pride to say that there is no good man of a common degree, especially as your late lady's kindness gave you such good opportunities, which you have had the grace to improve, but may think himself happy in you. But, as you say, you had rather not marry at present. Far be it from us to offer violence to your inclination. So much prudence as you have shown in all your conduct would make it very wrong in us to mistrust in this, or to offer to direct you in your choice. But alas, my child, what can we do for you? To partake our hard lot, and involve yourself into as hard a life would not help us, but add to your afflictions. But it will be time enough to talk of these things, when we have the pleasure you now put us in hope of seeing you with us, which God grant. Amen, amen, say, your most indulgent parents. Amen. Our humblest service and thanks to the worthy Mr. Williams again we say, God bless him for ever. Oh, what a deal we have to say to you! God give us a happy meeting. We understand the squire is setting out for London. He is a fine gentleman, and has wit at will. I wish he was as good, but I hope he will now reform. Oh, what inexpressible comfort, my dear father, has your letter given me! You ask, what could you do for me? What is it you cannot do for your child? You can give her the advice she has so much wanted, and still wants, and will always want. You can confirm her in the paths of virtue, into which you first initiated her, and you can pray for her, with hearts so sincere and pure, that are not to be met with in palaces. Oh, how I long to throw myself at your feet, and receive from your own lips the blessings of such good parents! But, alas! how are my prospects again overclouded to what they were when I closed my last parcel! More trials, more dangers, I fear, must your poor Pamela be engaged in. But through the divine goodness and your prayers, I hope at last to get well out of all my difficulties, and the rather, as they are not the effect of my own vanity or presumption. But I will proceed with my hopeless story. I saw Mr. Williams was a little nettled at my impatience, and so I wrote to assure him I would be as easy as I could, and wholly directed by him, especially as my father, whose respects I mentioned, had assured me my master was setting out for London, which he must have somehow from his own family, or he would not have written me word of it. Saturday, Sunday. Mr. Williams has been here both these days as usual, but is very indifferently received still by Mrs. Jewkes, and to avoid suspicion I left them together, and went up to my closet most of the time he was here. He and she, I found by her, had a quarrel, and she seems quite out of humour with him. But I thought it best not to say anything, and he said he would very little trouble the house till he had an answer to his letter from Mr. B. And she returned, the less the better. Poor man, he has got but little by his openness, making Mrs. Jewkes his confidant, as she bragged, and would have had me to do likewise. I am more and more satisfied there is mischief brewing, and shall begin to hide my papers, and be circumspect. She seems mighty impatient for an answer to her letter to my master. End of section 11.
Section 12 of Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Pamela, or Virtue Rewarded, by Samuel Richardson. Section 12. Monday, Tuesday, the 25th and 26th days of my heavy restraint. Still more and more strange things to write. A messenger is returned, and now all is out. Oh, wretched, wretched Pamela! What at last will become of me? Such strange turns and trials sure never poor creature of my years experienced. He brought 2 letters, one to Mrs. Jewkes and one to me, but as the greatest wits may be sometimes mistaken, they being folded and sealed alike, that for me was directed to Mrs. Jewkes, and that for her was directed to me. But both are stark naught, abominably bad. She brought me up that directed for me, and said, Here's a letter for you, long looked for is come at last. I will ask the messenger a few questions, and then I will read mine. So she went down, and I broke it open in my closet, and found it directed to Mrs. Pamela Andrews. But when I opened it, it began Mrs. Jewkes. I was quite confounded. But, thought I, this may be a lucky mistake. I may discover something. And so I read on these horrid contents. Mrs. Jewkes, what you write me has given me no small disturbance. This wretched fool's plaything, no doubt, is ready to leap at anything that offers, rather than express the least sense of gratitude for all the benefits she has received from my family, and which I was determined more and more to heap upon her. I reserve her for my future resentment, and I charge you double your diligence in watching her, to prevent her escape. I send this by an honest Swiss, who attended me in my travels, a man I can trust, and so let him be your assistant, for the artful creature is enough to corrupt a nation by her seeming innocence and simplicity. And she may have got a party perhaps among my servants with you, as she has here. Even John Arnold, whom I confided in, and favoured more than any, has proved an execrable villain, and shall meet his reward for it. As to that college novice, Williams, I need not bid you take care he sees not this painted bauble, for I have ordered Mr. Shorter, my attorney, to throw him instantly into jail, on an action of debt, for money he has had of me, which I had intended never to carry to account against him, for I know all his rascally practices, besides what you write me of his perfidious intrigue with that girl, and his acknowledged contrivances for her escape, when he knew not for certain that I designed her any mischief, and when, if he had been guided by a sense of piety, or compassion for injured innocence, as he pretends, he would have expostulated with me, as his function, and my friendship for him might have allowed him. But to enter into a vile intrigue with the amiable gewgaw, to favour her escape in so base a manner, to say nothing of his disgraceful practices against me in Sir Simon Darnford's family, of which Sir Simon himself has informed me, is a conduct that, instead of preferring the ungrateful wretch, as I had intended, shall pull down upon him utter ruin. Monsieur Colbrand, my trusty Swiss, will obey you without reserve, if my other servants refuse. As for her denying that she encouraged his declaration, I believe it not. It is certain the speaking picture, with all that pretended innocence and bashfulness, would have run away with him. Yes, she would run away with a fellow that she had been acquainted with, and that not intimately, if you were as careful as you ought to be, but a few days, at a time when she had the strongest assurances of my honour to her. Well, I think I now hate her perfectly, and though I will do nothing to her myself, yet I can bear, for the sake of my revenge, and my injured honour and slighted love, to see anything, even what she most fears, be done to her, and then she may be turned loose to her evil destiny, and echo to the woods and groves her piteous lamentations for the loss of her fantastical innocence, which the romantic idiot makes such a work about. I shall go to London with my sister Davers, and the moment I can disengage myself, which perhaps may be in 3 weeks from this time, I will be with you, and decide her fate, and put an end to your trouble. Meantime be doubly careful, for this innocent, as I have warned you, is full of contrivances. I am your friend. I had but just read this dreadful letter through, when Mrs. Jewkes came up in a great fright, guessing at the mistake, and that I had her letter, and she found me with it open in my hand, just sinking away. What business, said she, had you to read my letter? And snatched it from me. You see, said she, looking upon it, it says Mrs. Jewkes at top. You ought in manners to have read no further. O add not, said I, to my afflictions. I shall be soon out of all your ways. This is too much, too much. I never can support this, and threw myself upon the couch in my closet, and wept most bitterly. She read it in the next room, and came in again afterwards. Why, this, said she, is a sad letter indeed. I am sorry for it. But I feared you would carry your niceties too far. Leave me, Mrs. Jewkes, said I, for a while. I cannot speak nor talk. Poor heart, said she. Well, I'll come up again presently, and hope to find you better. But here, take your own letter. I wish you well, but this is a sad mistake. And so she put down by me that which was intended for me. But I have no spirit to read it at present. O man, man, hard-hearted, cruel man, what mischiefs art thou not capable of, unrelenting persecutor as thou art! I sat ruminating, when I had a little come to myself, upon the terms of this wicked letter, and had no inclination to look into my own. The bad names, fool's plaything, artful creature, painted bauble, gewgaw, speaking picture, are hard words for your poor Pamela, and I began to think whether I was not indeed a very naughty body, and had not done vile things. But when I thought of his having discovered poor John, and of Sir Simon's base officiousness in telling him of Mr. Williams, with what he had resolved against him in revenge for his goodness to me, I was quite dispirited, and yet still more about that fearful Colbrand, and what he could see done to me. For then I was ready to gasp for breath, and my heart quite failed me. Then how dreadful are the words, that he will decide my fate in 3 weeks. Gracious heaven, said I, strike me dead before that time with a thunderbolt, or provide some way for my escaping these threatened mischiefs. God forgive me if I sinned. At last I took up the letter directed from Mrs. Jewkes, but designed for me, and I find that little better than the other. These are the hard terms it contains. Well have you done, perverse, forward, artful, yet foolish Pamela, to convince me before it was too late, how ill I had done to place my affections on so unworthy an object. I had vowed honour and love to your unworthiness, believing you a mirror of bashful modesty and unspotted innocence, and that no perfidious designs lurked in so fair a bosom. But now I have found you out, you specious hypocrite, and I see, that though you could not repose the least confidence in one you had known for years, and who, under my good mother's misplaced favour for you, had grown up in a manner with you, when my passion, in spite of my pride, and the difference of our condition, made me stoop to a meanness that now I despise myself for, yet you could enter into an intrigue with a man you never knew till within these few days past, and resolve to run away with a stranger, whom your fair face and insinuating arts had bewitched to break through all the ties of honour and gratitude to me, even at a time when the happiness of his future life depended upon my favour. Henceforth, for Pamela's sake, whenever I see a lovely face, will I mistrust a deceitful heart, and whenever I hear of the greatest pretences to innocence, will I suspect some deep-laid mischief. You were determined to place no confidence in me, though I have solemnly, over and over, engaged my honour to you. What though I had alarmed your fears in sending you one way, when you hoped to go another, yet had I not, to convince you of my resolution to do justly by you, although with great reluctance, such then was my love for you, engaged not to come near you without your own consent. Was not this a voluntary demonstration of the generosity of my intention to you? Yet how have you requited me? The very first fellow that your charming face and insinuating address could influence, you have practised upon, corrupted too, I may say, and even ruined, as the ungrateful wretch shall find, and thrown your forward self upon him. As, therefore, you would place no confidence in me, my honour owes you nothing, and in a little time you shall find how much you have erred in treating as you have done a man who was once your affectionate and kind friend. Mrs. Jewkes has directions concerning you, and if your lot is now harder than you might wish, you will bear it the easier because your own rash folly has brought it upon you. Alas for me! What a fate is mine to be thus thought artful and forward and ungrateful, when all I intended was to preserve my innocence, and when all the poor little shifts which his superior wicked wit and cunning have rendered ineffectual were forced upon me in my own necessary defence. When Mrs. Jewkes came up to me again, she found me bathed in tears. She seemed, as I thought, to be moved to some compassion, and finding myself now entirely in her power, and that it is not for me to provoke her, I said, it is now, I see, in vain for me to contend against my evil destiny, and the superior arts of my barbarous master. I will resign myself to the divine will, and prepare to expect the worst. But you see how this poor Mr. Williams is drawn in and undone. I am sorry I am made the cause of his ruin. Poor, poor man, to be thus involved, and for my sake too. But if you'll believe me, said I gave no encouragement to what he proposed as to marriage, nor would he have proposed it, I believe, but as the only honourable way he thought was left to save me, and his principal motive to it at all was virtue and compassion to one in distress. What other view could he have? You know I am poor and friendless. All I beg of you is, to let the poor gentleman have notice of my master's resentment, and let him fly the country, and not be thrown into jail. This will answer my master's end as well, for it will as effectually hinder him from assisting me, as if he was in a prison. Ask me, said she, to do anything that is in my power consistent with my duty and trust, and I will do it, for I am sorry for you both. But to be sure I shall keep no correspondence with him, nor let you. I offered to talk of a duty superior to that she mentioned, which would oblige her to help distressed innocence, and not permit her to go the lengths enjoined by lawless tyranny. But she plainly bid me be silent on that head, for it was in vain to attempt to persuade her to betray her trust. All I have to advise you, said she, is to be easy. Lay aside all your contrivances and arts to get away, and make me your friend, by giving me no reason to suspect you; for I glory in my fidelity to my master, and you have both practised some strange sly arts, to make such a progress as he has owned there was between you, so seldom as I thought you saw one another, and I must be more circumspect than I have been. This doubled my concern, for I now apprehended I should be much closer watched than before. Well, said I, since I have by this strange accident discovered my hard destiny, let me read over again that fearful letter of yours, that I may get it by heart, and with it feed my distress, and make calamity familiar to me. Then, said she, let me read yours again. I gave her mine, and she lent me hers, and so I took a copy of it, with her leave, because, as I said I would by it prepare myself for the worst. And when I had done, I pinned it on the head of the couch. This, said I, is the use I shall make of this wretched copy of your letter, and here you shall always find it wet with my tears. She said she would go down to order supper, and insisted upon my company to it. I would have excused myself, but she began to put on a commanding air that I durst not oppose, and when I went down, she took me by the hand, and presented me to the most hideous monster I ever saw in my life. Here, Monsieur Colbrand, said she, here is your pretty ward and mine. Let us try to make her time with us easy. He bowed and put on his foreign grimaces, and seemed to bless himself, and in broken English told me I was happy in de affections of de finest gentleman in de varld. I was quite frightened, and ready to drop down, and I will describe him to you, my dear father and mother, if now you will ever see this, and you shall judge if I had not reason, especially not knowing he was to be there, and being apprized as I was of his hated employment, to watch me closer. He is a giant of a man for stature, taller by a good deal than Harry Molich in your neighbourhood, and large-boned and scraggy, and has a hand. I never saw such an one in my life. He has great staring eyes like a bull's, that frightened me so, vast jawbones sticking out, eyebrows hanging over his eyes, two great scars upon his forehead, and one on his left cheek, and two large whiskers, and a monstrous wide mouth, blubber lips, long yellow teeth, and a hideous grin. He wears his own frightful long hair, tied up in a great black bag, a black crape neckcloth about a long ugly neck, and his throat sticking out like a wen. As to the rest, he was dressed well enough, and had a sword on, with a nasty red knot to it, leather garters buckled below his knees, and a foot, near as long as my arm, I verily think. He said, he fright de lady, and offered to withdraw, but she bid him not. And I told Mrs. Jewkes, that as she knew I had been crying, she should not have called me to the gentleman, without letting me know he was there. I soon went up to my closet, for my heart ached all the time I was at table, not being able to look upon him without horror, and this brute of a woman, though she saw my distress before this addition to it, no doubt did it on purpose, to strike more terror into me. And indeed it had its effect, for when I went to bed, I could think of nothing but his hideous person, and my master's more hideous actions, and thought them too well paired, and when I dropped asleep, I dreamed they were both coming to my bedside, with the worst designs, and I jumped out of my bed in my sleep, and frightened Mrs. Jewkes, till waking with the terror, I told her my dream, and the wicked creature only laughed, and said, all I feared was but a dream, as well as that, and when it was over, and I was well awake, I should laugh at it as such. And now I am come to the close of Wednesday, the 27th day of my distress. Poor Mr. Williams is actually arrested and carried away to Stamford. So there is an end of all my hopes from him, poor gentleman. His over security and openness have ruined us both. I was but too well convinced that we ought not to have lost a moment's time, but he was half angry, and thought me too impatient, and then his fatal confessions, and the detestable artifice of my master. But one might well think, that he who had so cunningly and so wickedly contrived all his stratagems hitherto, that it was impossible to avoid them, would stick at nothing to complete them. I fear I shall soon find it so. But one stratagem I have just invented, though a very discouraging one to think of, because I have neither friends nor money, nor know one step of the way if I was out of the house. But let bulls and bears and lions, and tigers, and what is worse, false, treacherous, deceitful men, stand in my way, I cannot be in more danger than I am, and I depend nothing upon his 3 weeks. For how do I know, now he is in such a passion, and has already begun his vengeance on poor Mr. Williams, that he will not change his mind, and come down to Lincolnshire before he goes to London? My stratagem is this. I will endeavour to get Mrs. Jewkes to go to bed without me, as she often does, while I sit locked up in my closet; and as she sleeps very sound in her first sleep, of which she never fails to give notice by snoring, if I can but then get out between the 2 bars of the window, for you know I am very slender, and I find I can get my head through, then I can drop upon the leads underneath, which are little more than my height, and which leads are over a little summer parlour that juts out towards the garden; and as I am light, I can easily drop from them, for they are not high from the ground. Then I shall be in the garden, and then, as I have the key of the back door, I will get out. But I have another piece of cunning still. Good heaven, succeed to me my dangerous but innocent devices! I have read of a great captain, who, being in danger, leaped overboard into the sea, and his enemies, as he swam, shooting at him with bows and arrows, he unloosed his upper garment, and took another course, while they stuck that full of their darts and arrows, and so he escaped, and lived to triumph over them all. So what will I do, but strip off my upper petticoat, and throw it into the pond with my neck-handkerchief? For to be sure, when they miss me, they will go to the pond first, thinking I have drowned myself; and so when they see some of my clothes floating there, they will be all employed in dragging the pond, which is a very large one; and as I shall not, perhaps, be missed till the morning, this will give me opportunity to get a great way off, and I am sure I will run for it when I am out. And so I trust that Providence will direct my steps to some good place of safety, and make some worthy body my friend; for sure, if I suffer ever so, I cannot be in more danger, nor in worse hands, than where I am, and with such avowed bad designs. Oh, my dear parents, don't be frightened when you come to read this, but all will be over before you can see it, and so God direct me for the best. My writings, for fear I should not escape, I will bury in the garden; for to be sure I shall be searched and used dreadfully if I can't get off. And so I will close here for the present, to prepare for my plot. Prosper thou, O gracious protector of oppressed innocence! This last effort of thy poor handmaid, that I may escape the crafty devices and snares that have begun to entangle my virtue, and from which, but by this one trial, I see no way of escaping. And oh, whatever becomes of me, bless my dear parents, and protect poor Mr. Williams from ruin; for he was happy before he knew me. Just now, I heard Mrs. Jewkes, who is in her cups, own to the horrid Colbrand, that the robbing of poor Mr. Williams was a contrivance of hers, and executed by the groom and a helper, in order to seize my letters upon him, which they missed. They are now both laughing at the dismal story, which they little think I overheard. Oh, how my heart aches! For what are not such wretches capable of? Can you blame me for endeavouring, through any danger, to get out of such clutches? Past 11 o'clock. Mrs. Jewkes is come up and gone to bed, and bids me not stay long in my closet, but come to bed. Oh, for a dead sleep, for a treacherous brute! I never saw her so tipsy, and that gives me hopes. I have tried again, and find I can get my head through the iron bars. I am now all prepared as soon as I hear her fast, and now I'll seal up these, and my other papers, my last work, and to thy providence, O my gracious God, commit the rest. Once more, God bless you both, and send us a happy meeting, if not here, in his heavenly kingdom. Amen. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st days of my distress. And distress indeed! For here I am still, and everything has been worse and worse. Oh, the poor unhappy Pamela, without any hope left, and ruined in all my contrivances! But oh, my dear parents, rejoice with me even in this low plunge of my distress, for your poor Pamela has escaped from an enemy worse than any she ever met with, an enemy she never thought of before, and was hardly able to stand against. I mean the weakness and presumption, both in one, of her own mind, which had well nigh, had not the divine grace interposed, sunk her into the lowest last abyss of misery and perdition. I will proceed, as I have opportunity, with my sad relation, for my pen and ink, in my now doubly secured closet, are all I have to employ myself with, and indeed I have been so weak, that till yesterday evening I have not been able to hold a pen. I took with me but one shift, besides what I had on, and 2 handkerchiefs and 2 caps, which my pocket held, for it was not for me to encumber myself, and all my stock of money, which was but 5 or 6 shillings, to set out for I knew not where, and got out of the window, not without some difficulty, sticking a little at my shoulders and hips, but I was resolved to get out, if possible, and it was farther from the leads than I thought, and I was afraid I had sprained my ankle, and when I had dropped from the leads to the ground it was still farther off, but I did pretty well there at least. I got no hurt to hinder me from pursuing my intentions. So being now on the ground, I hid my papers under a rose bush, and covered them with mould, and there they still lie, as I hope. Then I hied away to the pond. The clock struck 12 just as I got out, and it was a dark misty night, and very cold, but I felt it not then. When I came to the pond side, I flung in my upper coat, as I had designed, and my neck-handkerchief, and a round-eared cap with a knot, and then with great speed ran to the door, and took the key out of my pocket, my poor heart beating all the time against my bosom, as if it would have forced its way through it, and beat it well might, for I then, too late, found that I was most miserably disappointed, for the wicked woman had taken off that lock, and put another on, so that my key would not open it. I tried, and feeling about, I found a padlock besides on another part of the door. Oh, then, how my heart sunk! I dropped down with grief and confusion, unable to stir or support myself for a while. But my fears awakening my resolution, and knowing that my attempt would be as terrible for me as any other danger I could then encounter, I clambered up upon the ledges of the door, and upon the lock, which was a great wooden one, and reached the top of the door with my hands. Then, little thinking I could climb so well, I made shift to lay hold on the top of the wall with my hands. But alas for me, nothing but ill luck. No escape for poor Pamela. The wall being old, the bricks I held by gave way, just as I was taking a spring to get up, and down came I, and received such a blow upon my head with one of the bricks, that it quite stunned me, and I broke my shins and my ankle besides, and beat off the heel of one of my shoes. In this dreadful way, flat upon the ground, lay poor I, for I believe 5 or 6 minutes, and then, trying to get up, I sunk down again 2 or 3 times, and my left hip and shoulder were very stiff and full of pain with bruises, and besides my head bled and ached grievously with the blow I had with the brick. Yet these hurts I valued not, but crept a good way upon my feet and hands, in search of a ladder I just recollected to have seen against the wall 2 days before, on which the gardener was nailing a nectarine branch that was loosened from the wall. But no ladder could I find, and the wall was very high. What now, thought I, must become of the miserable Pamela? Then I began to wish myself most heartily again in my closet, and to repent of my attempt, which I now censured as rash, because it did not succeed. God forgive me, but a sad thought came just then into my head. I tremble to think of it. Indeed, my apprehensions of the usage I should meet with had like to have made me miserable for ever. Oh, my dear, dear parents, forgive your poor child. But being then quite desperate, I crept along till I could raise myself on my staggering feet, and away limped I. What to do but to throw myself into the pond, and so put a period to all my griefs in this world? But oh, to find them infinitely aggravated, had I not by the divine grace been withheld in a miserable eternity! As I have escaped this temptation, blessed be God for it. I will tell you my conflicts on this dreadful occasion, that the divine mercies may be magnified in my deliverance, that I am yet on this side the dreadful gulf, from which there could have been no return. It was well for me, as I have since thought, that I was so maimed, as made me the longer before I got to the water, for this gave me time to consider, and abated the impetuousness of my passions, which possibly might otherwise have hurried me in my first transport of grief, on my seeing no way to escape, and the hard usage I had reason to expect from my dreadful keepers, to throw myself in. But my weakness of body made me move so slowly, that it gave time, as I said, for a little reflection, a ray of grace, to dart in upon my benighted mind. And so when I came to the pond side, I sat myself down on the sloping bank, and began to ponder my wretched condition, and thus I reasoned with myself. Pause here a little, Pamela, on what thou art about, before thou takest the dreadful leap, and consider whether there be no way yet left, no hope, if not to escape from this wicked house, yet from the mischiefs threatened thee in it. I then considered, and after I had cast about in my mind everything that could make me hope, and saw no probability, a wicked woman, devoid of all compassion, a horrid helper just arrived, in this dreadful coal-brand, an angry and resenting master, who now hated me, and threatened the most afflicting evils, and that I should in all probability be deprived even of the opportunity I now had before me to free myself from all their persecutions. What hast thou to do, distressed creature, said I to myself, but throw thyself upon a merciful God, who knows how innocently I suffer, to avoid the merciless wickedness of those who are determined on my ruin? And then, thought I, and oh, that thought was surely of the devil's instigation, for it was very soothing and powerful with me, these wicked wretches, who now have no remorse, no pity on me, will then be moved to lament their misdoings, and when they see the dead corpse of the unhappy Pamela dragged out to these dewy banks, and lying breathless at their feet, they will find that remorse to soften their obdurate heart, which now has no place there. And my master, my angry master, will then forget his resentments, and say, oh, this is the unhappy Pamela that I have so causelessly persecuted and destroyed. Now do I see she preferred her honesty to her life, will he say, and is no hypocrite nor deceiver, but really was the innocent creature she pretended to be. Then, thought I, will he, perhaps, shed a few tears over the poor corpse of his persecuted servant, and though he may give out it was love and disappointment, and that, perhaps, in order to hide his own guilt, for the unfortunate Mr. Williams, yet will he be inwardly grieved, and order me a decent funeral, and save me, or rather this part of me, from the dreadful stake and the highway interment. And the young men and maidens all around my dear father's will pity poor Pamela. But oh, I hope I shall not be the subject of their ballads and elegies, but that my memory, for the sake of my dear father and mother, may quickly slide into oblivion. I was once rising, so indulgent was I to this sad way of thinking, to throw myself in. But again my bruises made me slow, and I thought, what art thou about to do, wretched Pamela? How knowest thou, though the prospect be all dark to thy short-sighted eye, what God may do for thee, even when all human means fail? God Almighty would not lay me under these sore afflictions, if he had not given me strength to grapple with them, if I will exert it as I ought. And who knows but that the very presence I so much dread of my angry and designing master, for he has had me in his power before, and yet I have escaped, may be better for me than these persecuting emissaries of his, who, for his money, are true to their wicked trust, and are hardened by that, and a long habit of wickedness, against compunction of heart. God can touch his heart in an instant, and if this should not be done, I can then but put an end to my life by some other means, if I am so resolved. But how do I know, thought I, that even these bruises and maims that I have gotten, while I pursued only the laudable escape I had meditated, may not kindly have furnished me with the opportunity I am now tempted with, to precipitate myself, and of surrendering up my life, spotless and unguilty, to that merciful being who gave it? Then, thought I, who gave thee, presumptuous as thou art, a power over thy life? Who authorized thee to put an end to it, when the weakness of thy mind suggests not to thee a way to preserve it with honour? How knowest thou what purposes God may have to serve by the trials with which thou art now exercised? Art thou to put a bound to the divine will, and to say, thus much will I bear, and no more? And wilt thou dare to say, that if the trial be augmented and continued, thou wilt sooner die than bear it? This act of despondency, thought I, is a sin that, if I pursue it, admits of no repentance, and can therefore hope no forgiveness. And wilt thou, to shorten thy transitory griefs, heavy as they are, and weak as thou fanciest thyself, plunge both body and soul into everlasting misery? Hitherto, Pamela, thought I, thou art the innocent, the suffering Pamela, and wilt thou, to avoid thy sufferings, be the guilty aggressor? And because wicked men persecute thee, wilt thou fly in the face of the Almighty, and distrust his grace and goodness, who can still turn all these sufferings to benefits? And how do I know, but that God, who sees all the lurking vileness of my heart, may have permitted these sufferings on that very score, and to make me rely solely on his grace and assistance, who perhaps have too much prided myself in a vain dependence on my own foolish contrivances? Then again, thought I, wilt thou suffer in one moment all the good lessons of thy poor honest parents, and the benefit of their example, who have persisted in doing their duty with resignation to the divine will, amidst the extreme degrees of disappointment, poverty, and distress, and the persecutions of an ungrateful world, and merciless creditors, to be thrown away upon thee, and bring down, as in all probability this thy rashness will, their grey hairs with sorrow to the grave, when they shall understand that their beloved daughter, slighting the tenders of divine grace, despairing of the mercies of a protecting God, has blemished in this last act a whole life which they had hitherto approved and delighted in. What then, presumptuous Pamela, dost thou here? Thought I. Quit with speed these perilous banks, and fly from these curling waters, that seem in their meaning murmurs this still night to reproach thy rashness. Tempt not God's goodness on the mossy banks, that have been witnesses of thy guilty purpose, and while thou hast power left thee, avoid the tempting evil, lest thy grand enemy, now repulsed by divine grace and due reflection, return to the assault with a force that thy weakness may not be able to resist, and let one rash moment destroy all the convictions which now have awed thy rebellious mind into duty and resignation to the divine will. And so saying, I arose, but was so stiff with my hurts, so cold with the moist dew of the night, and the wet grass on which I had sat, as also with the damps arising from so large a piece of water, that with great pain I got from this pond, which now I think of with terror, and bending my limping steps towards the house, took refuge in the corner of an outhouse, where wood and coals are laid up for family use, till I should be found by my cruel keepers, and consigned to a more wretched confinement, and worse usage than I had hitherto experienced. And there behind a pile of firewood I crept and lay down, as you may imagine, with a mind just broken, and a heart sensible to nothing but the extremest woe and dejection. Section 12.